Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us today for AppSheet Office Hours focused on how to create and use AI-powered apps using natural language with Duet AI. My name is Lauren, and I'm the content manager for the Google Cloud community, and I'm thrilled to be here today with product managers Arthur and Christian, who will be taking you through the content and answering your questions today. So before handing it over to the team, because I know we have a lot to cover today, I just wanted to remind everyone that questions are encouraged. So please feel free to use that YouTube chat box. It's great to see so many of you letting us know where you're tuning in from. So keep it coming. Don't be shy. It's great to hear from you. And for any questions that we don't get to, please utilize the AppSheet community. And the link to that is in the YouTube description. We also had a few pre-submitted questions that we'll cover as well. All right. With that, I will hand it over to the team to take it away today.
Cool. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, everyone. So my name's Arthur. I'm a product manager at AppSheet, and we're going to be talking to you about Duet AI for AppSheet today. So there's a number of things that we want to show you in terms of like demos and capabilities, but also, be a little bit clear on licensing and things like that, because there were a lot of questions that came around those topics. So without further ado, I think I'll just dive right into it. So many of you kind of like signed up and share different use cases, and I think have kind of like different expectations about what Duet AI for AppSheet is and can do. So just in general, I want to kind of like level set a little bit. What is Duet AI? Duet AI is a model, artificial intelligence model, AI model, that essentially is available throughout, Google products, right? Overall, Duet AI is available in Google and not just in AppSheet. That being said, each product, like AppSheet as a product, has its own kind of like Duet AI. So for example, if you've heard of Duet AI for BigQuery, or if you've heard of Bard, another large language model, it doesn't mean like that they're going to be available inside of AppSheet. Okay. And so some of you have been asking like, well, is Duet AI for AppSheet the same as Bard? So no, it's not the same. If you've used Bard, you can simply ask it questions, and it'll just kind of like give you a general answer. In AppSheet, you're not going to be able to ask just any kind of like random question and hope like you're going to get some answer about like, hey, what should I do next, or like, how should I make this decision, or this and that. It's a little bit different. So we'll dive in detail in like what Duet AI for AppSheet can do. But just to preamble, I want to also emphasize that everything that we're going to cover here is going to be about Duet AI for AppSheet, in the sense that it's very specific about that. And so if you have questions about Duet AI and how it behaves in other products, other Google products, right, we're not going to be able to answer those questions here, and we're going to have to like find something else for you in terms of like resources. And another example is Duet AI is available in AppSheet, right? But it's not, for example, the same as Duet AI for Workspace. So if you're a Workspace customers and you use Duet AI to help you write or generate images, this is going to be different and tailored to AppSheet. So just to be clear here, there's actually two Duet AIs in AppSheet. There's a Duet AI for creators, and it's going to help you build an initial application through a chat app today. And so Christian is going to talk about that a little bit later. The other Duet AI that we have is for end users, right? So with this Duet AI, it's going to really help your end users be more productive, do more, or do things faster. Okay, it's not going to be helping the creators of the apps to do anything. It's just like for you a tool to enable productivity among your end users. And so in terms of like naming, you may have heard like Duet AI in AppSheet, Duet AI for AppSheet. But the way generally we distinguish the two, either we say Duet AI for creators and Duet AI for end users, but also we refer to Duet AI in AppSheet and Duet AI in AppSheet apps, right? So it tells you which Duet AI we're talking about. And it's kind of like important because we have at this point the two Duet AIs are at different stages, right? So Duet AI for app creators is right now GA, going through a progressive rollout, whereas Duet AI for end users, right, that surfaces inside the apps, it's available through a trusted tester program. And so they're really at different stages. And when you communicate with us and are telling us that you want Duet AI, we're not always clear what you mean, right? So we need to ask you for clarification. So just wanted to kind of like separate the two. And I'm going to demo later on Duet AI in AppSheet Apps. Right now, what we have for creators is a Duet AI that helps you build your initial app. And for end users, it will help app users to fill out a form with data, hopefully a little bit quicker. So when we go through each of the Duet AI features, we're going to tell you what it does, how it helps you. We're going to show you a demo. And after the demo, we're going to tell you a little bit like who can get access to it, how and when do you get access to it. And we've tried to kind of like, gather a lot of questions that were asked in the sign-up forms so that you kind of like get like the general idea and you know what to do next if you're interested. Okay. This is an area that we're obviously working on actively. And what we're sharing here is really kind of like a snapshot in time. So we expect things to move fast and to evolve quickly. So, 2 months from now, like, you might have like different information to share with you. All right, Christian, all yours.
Cool, thanks. So basically what I'm going to be showing is how to actually use Duet AI in AppSheet. And so if you can see my screen now, basically what we're looking at is the chat bot that I've installed in my chat environment here. And so we're looking at the interface. And so you get this nice animation, and it's going to ask you describe what you need to track and so forth. And so what I've done is I've actually placed a prompt here. So I preloaded a prompt that says that I need to track issues, and each issue itself should have status, priority, summary, and an assignee for that issue. So that's your basic issue tracker app example. And then as I do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and that will go through and start to respond, and it will create essentially an application for me. Go ahead.
Just a second. I think we're not seeing your screen right now yet.
Oh, okay. So Lauren, did you switch me over yet? So that's okay. I can refresh. I'm going to restart. Let me know when you can see my screen. So, do you see my screen yet?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, great. Okay, so basically, I'll start over at where I started. What we're looking at is essentially the chat interface. This is the Duet AI in AppSheet, the chat interface. And I simply need to describe what I need to do with my app. So I'm describing a use case, and I can be specific on the data requirements. So in this case, I want to have an app that will track issues, and each issue is going to have status, priority, summary, and so forth. All right, so I hit enter, and that will go ahead and generate a new application. So there we go. I have my application that is generated just like that, but I can also customize it. So I can say, just literally say, users table should also have a location column, right? So as you can see, I'm going to add that column. And so let's see if it takes that. Here we go. So now we can see that the location column has been added. So if I click on Show App Structure, Alrighty, so at this point I can either add notifications. Actually, let's do one more thing here. I'm going to take a look at the issues table, and let's see if things look about right. So as you can see here, I have a status. I have an enum for single select list, which is what I'd want. I want to have, like, is it completed, or what's the current status, closed, etc. Column name, and so forth. So these all look fine. If I needed to, I could change the data types. What we have here is like a simplified set of data types that you would see in AppSheet. And later on in AppSheet, I could go ahead and continue to customize that. And then I have like essentially a linked table. So it automatically will set up the reference between my different tables. And so that can also be a little bit challenging for new users, but basically it allows you to generate a fully relational database, so to speak, in the background. So this all looks good. So I'll click next. And then here you can see my enum, essentially my different values. So I have different statuses, so I can even update them on the fly. So I can say in progress without the underscore. And this all looks good. I'll click next. And basically just reviews my changes. I've changed a little bit here. I'll go ahead and hit save, and that will save my application structure for me. All right. So now we're essentially good to go. I can then add maybe a little bit more customization. Maybe I want to add some notifications. And notifications, I could probably actually say, add an automation, because at this point, once we've created this notification system, I can customize it and do further things. So for example, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and add issues for a notification, right? So I click on issues. So basically, whenever anyone enters an issue, it will send an email, right? So, and then I can customize that even further. I'll click save. Okay, so if this all looks good, if you have the basic comfort level with your application requirements, you can say, let's go ahead and create the app. So I'll click on create the app. And what this is doing is actually going in the background, generating a new application. It also generates an AppSheet database, backend database, which will be the default database for this application. And so here we go. We have our new application as it's rendering. You'll notice that I have some data here for issues. They just show like the issues and also the different users that it's set up. Now, in this case, as you can see, it's just dummy data, but this is essentially like part of the benefit in the sense that as the large language models that are producing this data are continually being refined, we also have the ability to generate dummy data for testing purposes. Okay, so the application generally looks okay. Let's go over to, so there's my table for my issues. Right here, I have users, and essentially I have a relationship that's pulling it together. Now you'll also notice that I have this automation here. And so this is where it's like I have the automation for this event. Whenever a new issue is, or an issue is created, updated, deleted, it will then send an email. So if I click on the send an email, I can then go through and customize it. And so in this case, maybe I can customize it further. Instead of just like doing a basic text template where I throw in values from the different columns, I could do an embedded app view. So in this case, this is allows me to insert, I'll just put in a little something here, is your issue. And then I can also specify that I want a different component of my application. So I happen to have the form where I can edit the app as well. So I can just throw that in there. And this is a feature we've had since last year anyway. So just to kind of spice it up, I'm going to go ahead and click save, and then we'll be able to test it. All right, so now I have my, and this is just a little warning saying that I should just deploy it, but right now it's just hard coding thing. All right, so now if I go back to my display screen here, so my little preview here, let's go ahead and create a new issue. And what we're going to do, what we're going to be able to see essentially is a new issue showing up in the Excel. And again, I can default all of these in the application as I let's see, there is a, I don't know, I'll just make a crazy issue right now. There is a flood, and I'll assign it to someone. So there we go. So anyway, what I'm doing right now is just hitting save, and that will trigger the automation. And so this is relatively straightforward stuff if you've seen AppSheet before using the embedded app view or dynamic email. Now we can actually say, oh, actually take action on this particular one here. So I'll click submit, and that will then go ahead and update it. So I don't really mean to go into too much detail on this particular one, but basically it just shows you that, as we mentioned, this feature is meant for new users or people who are wanting to prototype and experiment and create their new schemas on the fly and have a functioning app all within just a few minutes or so. So in that sense, as you can see on my side, I actually have like a fully functional app that I can then go in and customize. So I can set some default values, etc., set up further automations in here. Now, later on, if we have time, I'll show you a more advanced integration of how I can use AI into an app such as this. And that's where I could actually leverage Vertex AI directly. And I can actually make a call to the Vertex AI and have it say, for example, insert different field values right there in the flow of the application. But we'll save that for later. But anyway, I'll hand it back to Lauren and Arthur, if that works.
Yeah, thanks, Christian.
Sure.
So just so everyone's clear, right? So Christian at the beginning showed you how with Duet AI that's available through a Google Chat app, you're able to kind of like describe a little bit in your own words the app that you want to build, like the data that you want to keep track of in that app. And Duet AI is going to essentially start building it from scratch, essentially. One of the big change, I think, is that you can start with really just an idea, and you don't need to come up with your own data if you don't have any. And so really, I think the benefit of this is mostly at this point for new users and business users. I know a lot of you that are attending and that are in the community are, I would say, savvy AppSheet app creators at this point. And I don't think that's going to help you a lot building apps. You've already been successful at setting up your data properly, and so I don't think this is going to be kind of like life-changing for you. This is going to probably help you prototype faster, as Christian mentioned. But you still have some work afterwards to kind of like further finish your app, customize it. But for people who are not familiar with AppSheet, for people who get started or who are not as savvy in terms of, like, let's say, data schema and how to organize the information, Duet AI should be a great enabler. And so, right, so just remember, today you start with Duet AI through a Google Chat app that's called Duet AI in AppSheet. And essentially, it's just an interaction, a conversation with Duet AI that you have is going to ask you a little bit of information. Most of it you can say, some of it you can just click on some of the user interface elements here that let you change it, customize it, and then it will drop you into the AppSheet editor. So yeah, these are kind of like some of the steps and examples of what Christian showed you.
Yeah, that's one thing. I was actually going to show this slide, but I jumped a little bit ahead and I just showed you the actual product itself. But basically, as you can see here, is these nice animations walk you through the process of how you're essentially taking or you're describing your issue. And then there's one more little animation. If you click, it'll show you that once you've got your application structure, you can continue to refine it there. So if you click next, or if you click the next slide, you'll be able to see it. But there you go. But that's basically it. Then I jumped into the demo.
So now there were a lot of questions of people who signed up for this office hour, and I think we want to kind of like clarify like a few things, right? So a lot of people want to know, like, can they use it? How do they get access to it, and all of that. So who can use it? Well, first, from a technical perspective, you need to be able to access a Google Chat app, right? If you don't have access to Google Chat in general, you're not going to be able to use it at this point in time. So that kind of like may limit who can use it. Then in terms of licensing, we do require that you have core licenses or above at this point in time. We do plan to have it enabled for all paying customers, but right now it's focused on core and above. And one caveat also is that English is the only language that's officially supported. So that being said, I've tested it myself and in French, and I've been able to create apps while speaking in French. But like here, depending on the model that we're using and things like that, and whether the team that works on that model, until they tell us so, we can only say that English is the officially supported language. So in terms of like helping you out and things like that, that's where our focus is going to be at least in the short term. So if all of this is good for you, then you're wondering, okay, so how do I get access to it, right? So the one thing that I mentioned a little bit earlier is that right now access is given, it's going through a progressive rollout. We didn't enable all and everyone at once, right? So there's a number of reasons why we have to do it that way. Some of it technical, some of it because we want to refine the user experience and such things. So what it boils down to is that if you're part of an AppSheet team, or if you're part of like a workspace organization, we can give you access, but it has to come through your either workspace admin or like the AppSheet admin. They are the only ones who can tell us, yes, please enable Duet AI for that team, right? So if you're in this situation, you need to talk to your admin. We can't just like enable it like one user at a time. We generally enable for a whole team or a whole domain. So please talk to them. And at this point, if you're not part of an AppSheet team or workspace organization, because the process is somewhat manual to enable, and so we cannot offer it for like individual users. Hopefully that changes once we have some of the controls in place. That should happen, but we're not at that point yet. So I know some of you in the audience are admins, either from an AppSheet team or workspace organization. You may be wondering, like, well, if we ask you to enable it, like, how does that work? What kind of like governance control are there in place and things like that? So it's for now a little bit unusual in some sense, but it's an unusual mechanism, but you do have control. So because Duet AI in AppSheet for app creation is available through a Google Chat app, right? It's just like any other chat app. And as a result, the workspace admin will be able to control who has access to this particular chat app or to any of the chat apps, right? So if you're aware of this, then you can ask us, and then we will roll it out to anyone, and then you can decide who gets access to it if you want to restrict it. So what's happening next, right? Because obviously there's I think a lot of potential here. There's some people asking us, are we going to support other things? And so what's next for the AppSheet team? Well, our focus right now is first on improving the overall capabilities of Duet AI for app creation. What we've showed you here as a demo kind of like works great if you just have like a vague idea of what you want to build, and you just give like a very simple description. It will give you a generic data schema that you can start from, and that gets you started. If you know how to talk about your data and how to organize it a little bit, you'll be successful as well. And so we want to make sure that anyone can really build or start building an app with Duet AI. So we have some work to do still. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on. The other aspect is that we want to make this available directly in the AppSheet platform. Right now, you have to go through a Google Chat app. In many aspects, it's not like ideal, especially for all of our users who are not who don't have access to it. So the team is currently working on making Duet AI for app creation available through the AppSheet platform. And so, if for those of you who are already familiar, on the My Apps page, usually you say like start with My Data, start with a blank app, or start with an AppSheet database. You can imagine something like start with Duet AI or something of the sort, so that it becomes more widely available. Okay. Anything I missed, Christian, or did that sound about right?
No, I think it's good. I see there's are a few questions that we're asking about, like how to get access or whether they pay extra. I think you mentioned it, but if you wanted to touch on a little bit further on that.
Yeah. So there is no additional cost. So for example, if you have a core license, there won't be any extra cost to using Duet AI. It comes, it's included in the core licenses and in the enterprise licenses at this point, and should be for all paying accounts in general in the future. So no extra.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the comments, like, for example, isn't an add-on as well. And so at present, no, I mean, you just have the chat app itself. But
yeah, the chat app is available to everyone. It depends whether your workspace admin allows you to use the chat app, essentially. And yeah, we enable it as soon as we kind of like get requests. But it has to come from the admin, and there's no extra cost to the organization.
Yeah. Some other questions coming in a little bit, like, can you use it in a re-entrant fashion? So for example, can you, like, once you've built the app, can you continue to use that interface? And that's actually something that was a little bit prototyped, but that's kind of like the step 4, right, for what's next, is like continuing that creation journey and updates journey as well, as opposed to being entirely in the chat app. But if you want to talk on that as well.
Yeah, I think we've got like a FAQ section for this one, so I think we can come back to that. There was one thing that I think came up pretty often with respect to, like, core licenses and access to Duet AI. So there are, maybe you're in like a workspace organization and you don't know, for example, if you have access to a core enterprise licenses. So back in August, I think, AppSheet opened core licenses to pretty much all of like workspace customers. There's like a couple of SKUs that don't have access to it. And so depending on your SKU, the like odds are you do have access to AppSheet with core licenses, and therefore will be able to use Duet AI at no cost. If you're wondering if your organization has access to core licenses, there's multiple ways you can go about it. You can go into your AppSheet account, check what your kind of type of account you have. If it says core, it's core. And yes, thank you for dropping the link. We have this link here that you can visit, and that will give you explanation as to if you're that type of workspace SKU, do you or do you not have access to AppSheet core.
We also covered that in an office hours earlier this year, and we had a couple different topics, but one of the topics was the SKU entitlement expansion, and so you can actually hear it from myself. I think I walked through kind of like the core points there, but yeah, you're more than welcome to go back to that prior office hours.
Cool. All right, let's move on now to Duet AI for AppSheet end users. That's kind of like the second section, the second type of Duet AI that we offer in AppSheet, and specifically in the apps. Because as much as all of you probably in the community are app creators, you want to enable your end users, and you could be part of them. And you probably want to kind of like reap the benefits that AI can bring to AppSheet. So what does it look like? So, Christian, I think I'm going to mute you there. So we have Duet AI for app users. And today, what it does is it's really trying to help you with data input when it can be time-consuming and tedious. So we have a lot of people who work on the go on mobile devices, and they need to kind of like fill in forms. But to do that, to provide that information in those forms, they need to do a lot of scrolling. They have to click through many options. And sometimes they even have to kind of like give detailed notes about what they're doing or about the task that they're on. And, that can take a while. So what if instead you could just talk? And I'm not just, it's not like, it's a little bit like when you're writing a text, it's sometimes simpler. But here it's a little bit more evolved in that you can just say essentially in one go all of the information that you need to say, and Duet AI will extract what is relevant and categorize it to the right input, right? So it's really a way of transcribing, parsing, and validating the input information. Okay, and so I'm going to show you this on a very simple but concrete example so that you can get an idea of what this does. Just a word of kind of like caution in some sense, like this feature is available for trusted testers at this point. And what that means is like you can also understand it as like a kind of like a private preview. And that's because we're still very early in the development cycle. And so we're still definitely like making changes or receiving feedback from trusted testers so that we know how best to evolve it. So let me get ready for the demo on my phone. Let's see. Can you, oh, there. So this is a simple form, right? And I could, for example, fill it in by typing. So what kind of form is this? This is associated, this is in an app where, let's say that that helps manage maintenance requests in a corporate building, right? And sometimes you need to kind of like create an escalation ticket so that certain things can be done. And so this form is, a form that allows someone working in the building to create such an escalation ticket. And you can see that there's a number of information type here. It could be escalation justification. There's a date, follow-up date. I need to specify what my request is, and that can be a pretty long description. The reason also, if we've taken steps for mitigating the existing issue, and then some other kind of like fields around staff, who's the approver, and what's the current status of this escalation. So this is not like a super long form, but like there are a couple of fields that could be pretty tedious to fill in. And so I'm going to show you how with Duet AI I can fill out that form. So just give me a second. All right. So I'm going to click on that bottom right button here. And I'm taking to a different user interface, different view here that will allow me to kind of like record what I have to say, and I'll transcribe that information and analyze it. One thing that you can see is that in the bottom half, there are all the input fields that are kind of like expected from that form, right? You can see escalation ID, type, date, follow-up date, and so on. So it's kind of giving me a cue of like what information I should be providing. Type is escalation. We are requesting to contact the landlord as soon as possible and let them know about this water leak issue. The reason is that they will need to decide how to deal with the insurance. Current mitigation in place is that we shut off the water supply on the floor above. Follow-up date should be in a week. And so you can see here what was transcribed. And it made some mistake in the transcription, right? Like at the bottom, it said full update instead of follow-up date. So maybe it's the way I speak. Maybe I have a slight French accent. I don't know, but that's where we're at. So now I'm going to ask it to analyze this. And there, it's done. You can see that it has extracted a number of information. So the type is escalation. The request here has contact the landlord as soon as possible. I'm going to expand that a little bit. And you can see that there's an input field that will, has the whole text, contact the landlord as soon as possible and let them know about this wildlife issue. And you got a little explanation of why the request field was populated like this. It kind of like refers back to what I said earlier. Same for reason. Current mitigation is also right. So I don't need to kind of like change them, but if I needed to, I could do it right there. And then the last one, right, follow-up date. I said in a week, and in a week, it's going to be actually, today is the 6th for here, Seattle. And so in a week, it'll be the 13th. And despite the fact that, the transcription kind of like thought like I said full update instead of follow-up date, it was able to kind of like infer the right value. So, don't know if it's going to work every single time, but at least in this case, I kind of got lucky. So now I can accept the values. My form is filled, and I've got all of the information. If I had missed some information, I could just like enter it, type it, and now I can just save and be done. So I walked you through, how your end users can use Duet AI to really quickly fill in a form. And we hope that, especially for people who are on the go or people who have to provide a lot of information, that will essentially speed up their work. So let's see. That was the video in case there was kind of like an issue, but everything went fine. So I'm skipping to the last slide for here, for Duet AI and AppSheet apps. So where are we at today? As I mentioned, still early in the development cycle, and so that's why we're in the Trusted Tester program, or private preview. And today, it's only available on mobile devices, both iOS and Android. But you have to be able to download the new native apps that we have on the Play Store and the App Store to be able to leverage that. So some of you may be interested in being trusted testers. Get your hands on it. Try it out in your own conditions. Here in this demo, it's, I'm at home. It's pretty quiet, so that was great. I don't know what your environment conditions are, right? But maybe you want to give it a try and tell us how it does. And maybe we need to make some adjustments. So if you want to be a trusted tester, who can participate and how to go about it? So at this point, again, if you're part of an AppSheet team or workspace organization, only the admin of that team or of that organization can opt people in, right? So if you're in that situation and you're interested, you're going to have to talk to the right admin. We can't bypass that, right? If you're not in that situation, it's going to be a lot easier. If you're interested and you're not part of an organization, we will definitely consider you. There's no kind of like technical hurdles like we had for Duet AI for app creation. It's not through a Google Chat app, for example. So much easier to give you access. So if you're interested, we're sharing a link in the deck at the end of the deck that will let you kind of like access a form and where you're going to be able to provide the information that you need to provide, like account ID, email address, so that we can give you the instructions. And yeah, we'll take it on from there. The one thing that you need to be aware of is we have limited space. It's in trusted tester private preview, so we're not enabling everyone. So we're going to be, limiting who can access, and we're going to decide essentially based on a number of criteria, which gets me to my fourth point here, right? What is the AppSheet team looking for? Well, we want to get feedback, first of all, just feedback in general, but we want to have a variety of use cases. We want to have, if possible, people with different languages that they speak, different environments. And so we're kind of like asking in the form if you can provide us some information around those things so that we can, kind of like get enough of the variety that we're asking for. One thing to point is, I said it's only available on mobile devices, but we've already heard from some trusted testers that they would be interested in having this on their laptop, desktop, right? And so if you're also interested in that, please sign up. We will not, discard your use case, essentially. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's it at this point. And so I think we can move on to the next section. Christian, all yours.
Okay, cool. And before I jump into the slides, I'm just heads up, I'm going to switch back to my full screen, so let me know when you can see it. I'm going over to an application that I created that has integration already with Vertex AI. So if you recall, actually, I think I do have a slide here that actually talks about it in detail. Actually, there we go. That's the one I want to show. So if you can see my slide, basically what I'm going to be describing is how I can extend this issue tracker use case, or this app that I built earlier, into doing something a little bit more interesting with AI. And so in that sense, I'm actually going to inject it with the ability to make a request to Vertex AI directly and have it send back any additional information that I can then place into the application. So in this case, I have my UI here for a issue tracker. I can put in some letter issues. And in this case, I have a simplified version where it's like, all I have to do is just describe the issue itself. I don't actually have to provide a number of different further classifications, such as prioritization, or if there's an extremely long texted issue, I can actually use the service to summarize it and actually give me something that's a little bit more easy to understand. So to do that, what I've done is I've actually created a connection with my app that makes a call to an AppScript function, which then makes a call to the Vertex AI API directly. So it's like a straight REST call to the Vertex AI API directly, and then it will come back and send the response back into the application. So in that sense, once the flow, or essentially the automation that goes through whenever a new record is added, it will go out, fetch the response, like the prioritization, as well as the response summary here. And so in this case, this is just like a screenshot, but I'll show this in actual real life. So let's switch over to my app. So here is my app that I created before. I have, in this case, I have like the basic stuff here. I have issues and such. But the more interesting part of it is the integration that I've done with AppScript. So in this case, I have an automation. So whenever there's any new issue created, I'm going to go ahead and call Vertex AI. And I happen to have a function here that I'm going to call. It's called call Vertex AI. And so I can actually open it up so we can take a look at that. Now, again, AppSheet is for no code, but for those who actually understand what AppScript is and understand how it can complement overall AppSheet and low code solutions, you can use AppScript together. And so AppScript is Google Workspace's low code technology for building apps. And so in this case, the call that I'm doing is I'm actually making essentially a prompt that I'm going to send over to Vertex AI, where I'm telling it I want to classify the priority of this issue as high, medium, or low, and respond with a single word or something very short, and then summarize this issue into one sentence. And so in this case, it's going to go ahead and make the call, I do happen to have like a little bit of utility type functions here where I'm using traditional OAuth transactional code here to essentially navigate, send the OAuth token over to the service. So this is pretty much outside the scope of this talk, but basically, if you know AppScript and have worked with REST APIs with AppScript, you can use this kind of plumbing, so to speak, to be able to interface with REST APIs. So once I make the call, I can go ahead and turn that back and return that back into the application itself. And so that's where we get over here. I have my call Vertex AI, I have a response, and then I set the values here as opposed to being able to. And so this is actually the thing here where I actually take the output and I send it into my form. All right, so let's take a look at, let's see it running. So what I'm going to do here is just enter in a new issue here. So I can say something, trivial as like the printers are out of ink. Run for your lives. So anyway, just having some fun here. The printers are out of ink. And so what it's going to do, it's going to take this, it's going to fire the automation. It's going to then call my AppScript code, which will then go through and essentially extract a priority and a summary here. And here we go. Now we have our response. It's high. Printer ink shortage causes mass panic. So it's kind of like a summary in general. But as you can see, this is kind of fun to play with as you start to kind of kick the tires on this functionality. Now, again, this is additional functionality above what you would see with like the stuff we showed or Arthur showed with Duet AI directly. But it just shows you a little bit of like, it's a complement, basically, if you want to get started, and then you can add some more sophistications to your AppSheet apps. So hopefully this is helpful. And I'll hand that back to Lauren. And Arthur. Yep, there we go.
Yeah, so for those of you who had questions about whether you have access to the AppSheet core because you're part of a workspace organization, then you can go at the first link up there. If you're interested in becoming a trusted tester for Duet AI for end users, you can use the second link there. And the two bottom links here are, how you can get access to the AppSheet community if you're new to AppSheet. And just to give us feedback, that link here is the last one. Did I miss anything here, Lauren?
Nope, that's perfect. Just dropped the link to the Trusted Tester forum, so do check that out. You can access that in the chat, and then the links to the community and the feedback forum should be in the YouTube description as well for easy access. But with that, I know we just have a little bit of time left, and we want to make sure we're going through your questions. So let's dive right in.
Okay. I think that came up in the live question as well. So, you already have an app and you're wondering if you can further edit and modify the app. Well, today, no, that's not possible. Duet AI is really an experience that is available before you actually create the app, and it's just letting you build that, like create it and get access to it in the AppSheet editor. So it's only an initial app. Related to that, some of you are asking whether you can write expressions. So no, not possible. Others are asking, can you create bots? Can you create some new UI? So all of these, we understand them. We actually had some brainstorming session where we, all of these ideas were reflected, and we've got, a good number of them in mind. But today, with Duet AI, what you'll be able to do is what Christian showed you. Okay. So some of you are asking specifically, can I build, a specific app with Duet AI? And so examples that came up is like, can I build a PTO tracking app? PTO means paid time off, right? So you're requesting for vacation or sick days, and someone needs to approve. Can you create that with Duet AI? Another example is like if you're building a CRM, customer relationship management app, or if some of you were asking about use cases in the retail industry. So, and to some extent, you're going to have to try. It kind of like really depends on your use case. I can speak to the PTO tracking app because I tried it myself, and it seems like it was putting me on really good tracks to spin up an app in really just a few minutes. Maybe one thing that I can provide to help you be successful today with Duet AI. So it works really well if you have a generic idea, something that is not like very custom to your process, your business process. And so PTO, I would assume CRM also works pretty well. It might be pretty basic, but it will get you on the right track. You don't need to provide too many information. If you just type PTO app, for example, I think it'll get you kind of like, in a good spot. The other case where Duet AI for app creation works well is, I think I mentioned it earlier, is if you know what information you want to keep track of, right? If you take that mindset that, okay, I want to keep track of employees, tasks, and projects, and you can say for a project, I want to keep track like due date, things like that. I think Duet AI will be pretty successful at building that initial app for you.
I can also add a little point is like you can actually describe the relationships with your data as well. So I think I had another one where it's like create a partner tracking app where I have customers and partners and different relations, and then so if you just describe it, it will automatically build for you those relations into the app directly, which you can then go in and customize, obviously. But that's a pretty cool feature as well.
Oh yeah, that came up multiple times in other sessions that I've been part of. And is Duet AI HIPAA compliant? So for those of you who don't know, HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and it's a U.S. law. So if you're not in the U.S., probably not super interested. But it kind of like that law kind of like says what can be done with health-related data, right? So today, I'm only speaking for Duet AI that you will find in AppSheet or in AppSheet apps. I don't know about the other Google products, but I can tell you that Duet AI is not HIPAA compliant in AppSheet, in the sense that I don't think we have like the certification. It doesn't mean like it won't be, but at this point, if you need to be HIPAA compliant, please don't use Duet AI in AppSheet for app creation or for end users. Related to that, a similar question that we get is Duet AI learning from my data, from what you're saying, from the data that you're providing? And just in general, no. So Duet AI, right, is essentially an AI model behind that needs to be trained, but it is not trained using the data that you're providing when you're using it through AppSheet. Okay, just plain and simple. If that were to change, I'm sure you'd be hearing about it. Can Duet AI generate app script code? Do you want to take that one, Christian?
There we go. I was responding to a chat text as well. So with AppScript code, you can, in general, because AppScript is JavaScript, but it has access to a number of different classes and beans, as mentioned. You basically can create today with Bard JavaScript, and to that end, you can create like the non like AppScript class or beans type of code. Will we also have Bard supporting AppScript specifics code? I don't believe we have that, but I don't want to like jump the gun necessarily. I can definitely say that's it's an area of interest for sure. And so if that's something you want to continue to see, feel free to continue to mention it to the workspace and the AppScript teams as well. And so we can hopefully get that extra level of support for Duet AI as well. But as far as like I know, I haven't seen it just yet.
There were a couple of other live questions that came up. I don't know.
And also, can I just wanted to mention that the code that I showed, I will definitely share the code as well as the example AppSheet app. There was a couple of questions about that, so no worries. Well, I'll put it onto my public profile, and I can also add a link into the video that we post as well for this as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Christian.
Mhm.
Ricardo asked a question like, does it only work in English? And given the timestamp, I think he was asking for Duet AI in AppSheet apps for the end users. I did test it myself in French, and it was working. We want to hear from you if it does work or if it doesn't work. And there's different, like, depending on where you are and things like that. I think there are different things that may or may not work. I had a French app, and I was giving it information in French, and it was working fine. In some cases, I speak also in French, and it kind of like gets the right information, even in an app in English. But sometimes it doesn't, depending on like kind of like settings and stuff like that. So we want to hear from you. But I would say overall, we're trying to figure out like, is there some languages where it doesn't work really well? But as far as I've tested in English and French, it was kind of like working. So would love to hear the feedback.
Yeah, I need to test it in Spanish as well. So.
Yeah. There are a number of questions around creating with bots and stuff like that. I think we've kind of like answered that. New app versus edit the app. Expressions again. How to get access to the Trusted Tester program? Just sign up in the forum that we've shared the link, and we'll take it.
I think once we wrap up, we'll do a couple of things. We'll send them out to the community. We'll send out essentially the sign-up links, and I'll also make sure that the community has access to the code that we showed. But yeah, and then that's the sign-up short link as well for getting access to Duet AI, and that's a special link just for the office hours attendees that you guys are doing. Not that that's anything specific to your accounts, but it also allows us to kind of gauge the interest level as well. So look forward to seeing that.
And maybe we have time for one more question. There's this question that came up. So Matthias has a team with 8 emails in Google Workspace and have an app for them. Okay. So do you need to buy? Go check if you have access to, in your AppSheet account, right? You should have a core license. And then if you have, depending on whether you have the right SKU for Google Workspace, if there are 8 people in your domain, you should be able to share your app with those 8 people.
Yeah, I think that should work. I don't see any problems with it.
Okay, and I think that's it. Oh, maybe there was one question about, I'm scanning through them, sorry. There's a question about if you're an admin, right, and you have core access, how do you get access? In general, you can talk to your technical account manager, and that should send it our way, and then we can enable it. So just mention that you've attended the AppSheet Office Hours to your technical account managers, and that should get to us. Okay. Do you see any other ones that we?
Let me scroll back here.
That's about it.
A lot of questions about the script. And say, yep, we'll get the script. Okay. Scrolling through. Well, I don't know, Lauren, did any other questions come to mind that we should probably spend the last minute or so touching on?
Yeah, I think you covered most of them. Again, if there are any questions that we don't get to, I would definitely encourage you to ask them in the AppSheet community so that we can follow with you. Maybe just one is clarification around, so if you have a workspace, Duet AI in workspace, do you need to get Duet AI in AppSheet? So maybe just clarification there.
Yeah. So this, again, like Duet AI in AppSheet, I'm assuming you're talking about like for app creation. This does not require you to have to pay for Duet AI in Workspace. Period. Right? If you have a Workspace account, like independently even, if you have core or enterprise AppSheet licenses, we can give you access to Duet AI in AppSheet for app creation.
Okay. Perfect. I think that covers it, especially want to just be respectful of everyone's time. But if there are, again, any questions, please use the community, and we'd love to hear your feedback on this session. And if you have any topics that we should dive into for future sessions, we just dropped the link to our feedback form. So it should just take you about 30 seconds to complete that as well. And we'd love to hear from you. So just wanted to say thank you so much to Christian and Arthur for this session and everyone for joining us. Yeah, thank you so much. Any final kind of thoughts or recommendations before we close out today?
I mean, I'm really eager to hear what people have to give in terms of feedback around both Duet AIs, honestly.
Yeah. And great. Yeah, me too. It's always great to see what people come up with. So definitely happy to be here. So.
Absolutely. Feedback is a gift. So thank you so much, everyone. And please stay in touch in the community. Stay on the lookout for future sessions like this one. And we'd love to hear from you how you're going about using these new solutions and any suggestions for future topics. So thanks so much again, Christian and Arthur. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you next time.
All right. Thanks. Cheers. Bye-bye.